The storm came without warning, whipping through the mountains like a vengeful spirit. 6 climbers were roped together, scaling the jagged peaks of Mount Tranquil, their goal a frozen summit bathed in myth. The leader, Ben, was a seasoned mountaineer with years of experience, his sharp commands cutting through the wind. "Stay close!" he barked, his voice muffled by layers of wool and frost. The group trudged forward, the snow thick beneath their boots. Among them were Alex, a spry college student on her first major climb, and Ethan, a quiet veteran of the mountains with scars to prove it. But the storm wasn't interested in experience. With a deafening roar, the mountain gave way. Snow and ice cascaded down like liquid glass, sweeping the climbers into its merciless embrace. Ben woke to darkness. Snow pressed against his body like a coffin, suffocating and cold. His head throbbed, but his arms were free. With desperate movements, he clawed upward until his gloved hand punched through to the surface. "Alex? Ethan?" he called, his voice barely carrying over the howling wind. One by one, the others emerged, pale and shaking. Alex had a gash on her cheek, and Ethan limped as he helped a 4th member, Mia, to her feet. 2 others were gone, swallowed by the avalanche. "We need to move," Ethan said. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed him. "The storm's not over." The group huddled together, their breath fogging in the freezing air. Ben pointed to a ridge in the distance, barely visible through the blowing snow. "There's a shelter carved into the mountain," he said. "If we can make it—" "We're not alone," Alex whispered, cutting him off. "What?" Ben frowned. "Listen." They fell silent, their breaths frozen mid-air. Faintly, beneath the wail of the wind, came something impossible. A voice. "Help! Us!" The words were drawn out, mournful and chilling. The climbers stared at one another, their eyes wide with disbelief. "Is someone else out here?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. "Impossible," Ethan said. "No one would survive this storm." The voice came again, clearer this time. "Don't leave us alone." Alex turned, her eyes scanning the swirling snow. "It's coming from over there." Ben grabbed her arm. "No, it's the wind playing tricks on you." But Alex pulled free and started toward the sound, her steps unsteady on the uneven snow. Ben cursed and followed, the others trailing reluctantly. They found them half buried in the ice, 2 climbers, frozen in time. Their eyes were open, staring upward with a mix of fear and sorrow. Alex recoiled, but Ben knelt beside them, brushing snow from their faces. "They're from the 1997 expedition," he murmured. Ethan stepped back, his face pale. "That team disappeared without a trace. No bodies were ever recovered." "Help! Us!" The voice came again, closer this time. The group froze as one of the frozen climbers' lips parted, though their face remained motionless. "We need to go," Ethan said, his voice rising. "Now." Ben hesitated, but another low rumble from the mountain made the decision for him. They reached the carved-out shelter as darkness fell. The space was cramped, its walls carved with strange symbols that looked ancient and alien. "Anyone recognize this?" Alex asked, tracing the lines with her gloved fingers. "No," Ben said, though his tone was uneasy. As they settled in for the night, the voices began again, louder now, as if the storm itself carried them. "Why didn't you save us?" The group huddled close, their flashlight beams bouncing off the icy walls. "Who are you?" Mia called, her voice shaking. The reply was immediate and chilling. "We were just like you. The mountain took us." That night, Alex couldn't sleep. The voices seemed to echo in her mind, accusing and mournful. Finally, she crept to the shelter's entrance, drawn by a compulsion she couldn't explain. Outside, the storm had calmed, but the snow glowed faintly under the moonlight. As Alex stepped into the open, she saw them, figures moving in the distance, translucent and shimmering. They looked like climbers, but their faces were wrong, twisted with despair and anger. "You shouldn't be here," one of them whispered. Alex screamed, and the others rushed out to find her kneeling in the snow, shaking violently. "What happened?" Ben demanded, pulling her to her feet. "They're out there," Alex sobbed. "The climbers, they're waiting for us." By morning, the group decided to descend the mountain, but the storm returned with a vengeance, and the voices grew more insistent. "Stay with us. You'll never leave." The figures appeared more frequently now, blocking their path and whispering in their ears. Ethan stumbled and fell, crying out as icy hands gripped his ankles. "Help me!" he screamed, but the snow swallowed him before anyone could react. Ben grabbed Alex and Mia, dragging them forward. "Don't look back!" he yelled. They reached a ridge overlooking the valley below. The storm seemed to ease, but the voices grew deafening, screaming and pleading in a cacophony that drowned out all thought. Mia collapsed, clutching her head. "I can't." Ben turned to Alex. "We have to jump. It's the only way off this cursed mountain." Alex hesitated, her eyes filling with tears. But as the ghostly figures closed in, their hollow eyes burning with malice, she took his hand. Together, they leapt into the void. Weeks later, rescue teams found the bodies of Ethan and Mia, frozen and lifeless near the shelter. But Ben and Alex were never found. To this day, climbers on Mount Tranquil report hearing voices on the wind, calling for help or vengeance. Some say it's the spirits of those lost to the mountain. Others believe the mountain itself is alive, feeding on the souls of those who dare challenge it. But one thing is certain: once you hear the voices in the ice, there's no escape. And as the darkness fades, remember, the real chills linger long after the story's end. Until next time, brave souls.